Welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to do something I haven't done for a while, and that's talk some Star Wars Legion. Um, I haven't gotten to play a lot of Legion in the last couple of years, like many others. Just a couple of games here and there. But I figured it's a good time to talk about it. We just had a bunch of errata and a big points update. Now, for those of you that have watched the channel for a while, know that I only play one faction. I only play the Rebels. I don't keep up with everything in the game. I do mostly play casually, but I will play in a tournament from time to time. I like seeing really thematic tables. I create tables. Um, that's actually what I like most about Legion is creating thematic um, display tables to be played. Um, if you've followed my channel, you know that I have a couple of them that I've worked on. That being said, I do like to play. I play Rebels. Um, I'm not an expert in the game though, so I'm not going to go over every single errata that came out. I'm not going to go over all of the points adjustments for all of the lists because I don't know how they affect other lists. I know some people have been upset with how much clones got hit. All I can say is I've played clones a few times and they were a pain in the butt to play against. Um, I thought that they were just a little bit too strong. Now, I don't know, maybe they've gone too far. I don't know. But, it is what it is. It happens with games from time to time. It just so happens with Legion, unlike any other game that I've played, every single time that one of these points adjustments or errata come out, it seems to make my list better instead of worse, which means I was probably not playing a very good list to begin with, I guess. Maybe. But I play a lot of casual. I'm here to have fun, um, but I do enjoy playing this list. So when we talk about the list, we'll talk a little bit about some changes that were made, mostly for points, that helped this list out. The first thing before we get into it, I originally would have had R2D2 in this list, not really thematic to a Rogue One list, but is good cheap activation and very valuable from time to time. Um, I decided to take him out, spend those points elsewhere. Gone from a 12 activation list to 11. 11 is still really good. My theory with a Rebel list is you want to activate your opponent. And I think Rebels can out activate your opponent almost every time, except for maybe with the CIS. But generally speaking, they can out activate their opponent. I generally do not, unless it's just a fun game, because I do like T-47s, but I generally don't take heavies and I don't take supports. It's just commanders, operatives, troops, and special forces. That's mostly what I take. But let's get in and see what I have for a Rogue One list. Now, first of all, with a Rogue One list, for me, you always start with Jyn Erso. Jyn Erso has had 4 different price values, 3 price drops since she originally came out. I did think the original price was a little overcosted, but she's gotten better and better and better every time that they have updated her points. She's now at 90 points. Really good. Jyn has an ability like a lot of my list. You're going to see in my list, I have 2 keywords that I really focus on. One is danger sense, the other one is infiltrate. I think it's important to build your list around something, find something to build it around that makes it all work together. And for me, that's what I'm working on here is danger sense and infiltrate. If you have units with danger sense, which is a big rebel keyword, it's out there a little bit in other places, but it's big with the rebels. You're going to take duck and cover. You always take duck and cover with danger sense, and duck and cover itself got a 2-point reduction. So now my Jyn is 12 points cheaper. And I usually just run Jin with duck and cover and her weapon. I have added vigilance here in order to help with nimble a little bit, help carry over some dodge tokens here and there with some units. We'll see how that works. That's one of those things. I'll try it once or twice, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll take it out and do something else. Generally speaking, with Cassian, I have always, or almost always, run him as in his sniper config. When I play this list, I do intend to try him with his pistol config and use all those aim tokens that K2 is giving him in order to increase his range with the pistol. I can use this long shot. I can spend up to one aim token to increase the weapon's maximum range by 1 for each aim token spent. I assume I can do that. I would assume long shot 2 would let you increase your range by 2 for each aim token spent. So I assume I can spend 2 aim tokens to increase the range to 4. I think that's how that's going to work. But when he's in his sniper config, I don't put duck and cover on Cassian, even though he does have danger sense, just because he's usually way far away from the action, sniping people from across the board. But in this case, I intend to have him a little bit closer to the action. Same with K2. K2, it's usually just generic K2. No upgrades at all. He's just feeding Cassian aim tokens. Because we're going to be a little bit closer to the action, I did give him Jin's blaster here. So these are all points that I'm getting either from savings in other places with Jin, duck and cover being reduced, or because I got rid of R2. Another big change for my list is I have 2 DLT Rebel Trooper units. I have always only had 1. I haven't had a chance to play 2 yet. My problem with only playing 1 is that unit tended to get focused down really fast by my opponents. No matter what I did with them, no matter how much I tried to protect them, they decided they're going to get rid of the DLT. So if I have 2, one of them is hopefully going to get some work done. And I've decided to add at least another mini to each unit. One of them just has a generic Rebel Trooper, which I haven't taken a generic Rebel Trooper since the game first came out. But it's only 7 points, it fit in the list, it gives me that one more body. And then with the other one, I went with the Rebel Trooper Captain, which, if I've got suppression on this unit, I can at least use it once, do what I need to do with it, using the Rebel Trooper Captain's ability. Both of these units have recon intel. That's a big upgrade for me. If they don't have infiltrate, they are going to have recon intel in order to help them best position themselves as they possibly can at the beginning of the game. And then I have 2 sets of Rebel Troopers with Z6s and recon intel. One group of Fleet Troopers, not because they're Fleet Troopers. I could have done this unit with Rebel Troopers, had the exact same upgrades, would have done the exact same thing. It's a support unit. Just I have a set of Fleet Troopers that I don't run very often because they're not that great. And because this is a support unit, I don't expect them to be doing a lot of shooting and that kind of stuff. They're there to help other units, either handing or off aim tokens with electrobinoculars or using the med droid to heal somebody up. Then I have a commando strike team with a sniper, always good, cheap activation. They always get some work done. Then I have 2 groups of Pathfinders, one with POW, one with no heavy. I'm not a huge Biston fan, mostly because it's a heavy weapon that exhausts, and I'm not a big fan of heavy weapons that exhaust. Your mileage may vary, but for me, I'm using that second Rebel Pathfinders unit to, if we're playing Recover the Supplies, grab a box, get into cover, and support other units as best that they can. Um, and that's my thought with that second Pathfinder's unit. Um, and then I have my command cards. Now, with the command cards, these are a little bit more difficult for me to. So, one problem with the list. So, this is a problem with running Cassian and Jin, is that their command cards, almost all of them, tend towards late game use. Because of that, you need to get a couple of generic command cards in there for early game. So I've got Push and Covering Fire in there. Now, Cassian's 1-pip can work well early game, especially with the sniper config. If you've got a couple of units with good shot that he has good shots on, and you can pile them up with aim tokens, this card gives him an extra aim token. He can gunslinger, so he can get a couple of shots off. He can gain a suppression and gain a standby token, so that's a potential third shot that he can get off. So that's really good. That can come in handy early game with Cassian, depending on how I play him. But for the most part, the rest, we'll talk about Jin's 1-pip really quick here. For anyone that hasn't played Jin before, maybe you're not a Rebel player, or you're a Rebel player that just hasn't gotten around to trying Jin yet, this card is not to go after a commander or an operative. It's not to go after Darth Vader or Count Dooku, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, whatever it is. This card is to go after a group of stormtroopers or Phase 1 clone troopers or droids. Maybe they're holding an objective. She comes in, wipes out that unit of troopers, and grabs the objective kind of, last turn, maybe second to last turn, depending on how things work out. That's what this card is for. This card is not to go and try and slow down Darth Vader. Darth Vader will rip Jin to shreds. But it's a clutch card. It's really good. You have to time it really well. Again, either 5th or 6th turn, but really can come in clutch at the right time. Then just really quickly talk about my objectives and condition cards. Most of these I have picked in order to try and make my opponent have to split their units up in some way. I don't mind splitting up a little bit, but clones really don't like splitting up. Droids do not like splitting up. Empire can handle it okay, but I think it's valuable. If I can get a one unit to kind of separate from the rest, and I can focus them down, that's usually going to be a dead unit, and that's how I handle it. So Recover the Supplies works great that way. I love Vaporators. Vaporators work great with Infiltrate because you're able to drop a unit right on Evaporator and start ratcheting up or down depending on blue or red player right from the start without having to move into contact with it. I love Disarray for the same reason. Disarray forces your opponent to split up, even if they only move one unit into the opposite corner. That unit is now probably useless for most of the rest of the game. It's all about splitting things up. Minefields go really well with Vaporators. Fortified positions, more cover. Rebels want cover, more cover. Now, I have always in the past would bid for first player. Now, I don't think that bidding for first player is going to be as big a deal with the new rules. With the new rules, you're going to use all four of um, the objective and condition cards, all four of all three of those, instead of just three, which means you can't guarantee anything. Say I really wanted recover the supplies. In the past, if the third card dealt was recover the supplies, I could just boom, boom, take the first two. I've got recover the supplies. So I could guarantee that. If I really wanted disarray, if it's a third one, boom, boom, I got it. Now, because you're putting four out, you can't guarantee anything. You could take the first two and then your opponent takes the third and you're kind of out of luck. And the other reason is the red player gets to choose the decide that they want to deploy on. Now, generally speaking, this is not a big deal if you're just playing casually. When you're playing casually, you're probably both going to come up to the table. You'll just sit down at one side of the table or the other, and you'll just start setting up. All well and good. That's perfectly acceptable for casual. That's the way I play casual. If you're playing in a tournament or in a little bit more competitive situation, being able to pick the side you deploy on can be big. As a rebel player, I want as much cover as possible, assuming you have an asymmetrical board, which in my mind it should be. Boards should not be set up symmetrically. There should be a difference from one side of the board to the other. So I'm going to pick the side of the board that has more cover, that's more beneficial to my play style. Now there is a case that bringing your command card, not your command cards, your objective cards and condition cards, there is value to that. Now, there aren't so many of those cards right now in the game that it is a huge issue. I think most players can make do with most of the, being able to pick and eliminate enough stuff that you can make do using your opponent's objective and condition cards. So it all depends on what situation you are in. This list, I have not gone for a bid. In the past, I have always gone for a bid. I can see in the future a need to go for a bid. Right now, with the change in the rules, I want to try a list, and I would recommend this to anybody who's playing any faction in Legion. If you used to take a bid, don't take a bid now and see how it goes when you're playing casually. Or maybe vice versa. If you never took a bid before, maybe try taking a bid, see if it makes a difference to you. I just think right now the bid has become less necessary for me, and I want to try and see if that is the case. Now, thank you very much for watching. Do you play Rebel Pathfinders? Do you play Rogue One lists? Are you a Rebel player and you haven't played Rogue One lists, but now you're considering it because of the increased value based on the points adjustments? Do you not play Rebels, but you have played against them and you've played against a Rogue One list? What was your experience? Let me know what you think down in the comments. What do you think about Rogue One lists? It's my favorite list currently to play in the game. But thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe. Keep on playing, keep on painting, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.